So welcome everybody. Once again, my name is Gus Nahira. I am the Director of College Success for the Fulfillment Fund. We are a nonprofit college access and success organization, and we help students throughout the college process. So we're really excited about this partnership with NATO and helping them with their scholarship process, which is why you all are here. So today we're going to just be going over the application. It is due on February 15th for those of you that already got started. And if you haven't, you still have 2 weeks, so you should have more than enough time. We did our best to try to simplify the application, but I do anticipate that some of you may have some questions on it. So for today, our itinerary, if you will, I'm going to just go through the application and highlight some of the things that you have to complete. Because of lack of time, and I don't want to go through every single step, I may just kind of gloss over some things. But if you have any specific questions or you're wondering anything, just go ahead and either unmute yourself or let me know in the chat, and I'm happy to go into more details. Just FYI, one of the main requirements for this application, and we'll see right now, is that you have to be either working for a qualifying theater or one of your parents has to be working for that theater. So I assume that you all meet those initial requirements. And that's one of the cool things about the scholarship, right? You're not competing. It's not like this huge scholarship like McDonald's or something where you're competing against hundreds of thousands of people. The pool is a lot smaller, which means your chances of receiving the scholarship are a lot better. So that's why I really do love these type of scholarships, because you really do have a good chance of getting. So for those of you that started applying, you should see something like this. We use an application site called Submittable. So you go ahead and create an account, and then it'll take you to eventually something like this, right? So once again, I'm not going to go through every single one of this because, as you can see, it's kind of dense, but I do encourage you all to go through it. It's going to tell you some of the requirements. Essentially, there's two pools of applicants. One of them, if you're a high school senior now and you're going to graduate and you're going to college this fall 2023. And another one is if you're a continuing student or plan to re-enroll in college. So we do throughout the application, you get, depending on your selection, it'll go ahead and take you, it has like smart logic. So depending on what you choose, some of the questions is going to take you down a different path. So just make sure that you answer some of these questions carefully, and I'm going to go through those, making sure that that you're doing that. But the minimum is you do have to have at least a 2.0 GPA. You do have to have certain hours that you're going to have to accumulate throughout those times, and we'll give you more details as those times have come. But theater level applicants will work a minimum of 300 hours between February 16, 2022 and February 15, 2023 in a member theater. But once again, go ahead and read through these initial steps and requirements on your own. I want to focus more on the application itself because I anticipate that's probably what has held some of you up. So there's a total of 10 sections, and we're going to be reviewing these today. So the first part is just personal and demographic information, right? First name, last name, phone number, email. For those of you that are still in high school, please do not use your high school emails. I can't stress that enough, right? I know everybody gets like a district email. Don't use those. Once you graduate, you're not going to have access to those. And I can't tell you how many times we've tried emailing students who use your high school email, and then it bounces back, and then we have no way of contacting you. So even if you receive the scholarship, it becomes this whole mess just trying to get in contact with you. I would say about 90% of the communication we're going to have with you is going to be via email. So make sure that you use a Gmail or something of the sort that is not school related. If you're in college, if you want to use your college email, that's perfectly acceptable because you're going to be able to use that anyway. So that's okay. But high school students, do not use your high school email. Please, please, please don't. And then also for high school students and maybe even some of your college students, try your best to have a quote unquote professional email. It's just, it comes out as a bad look, right? If, you have, whatever you're into, and then, we've seen all kinds of emails. And this is just not for our particular scholarship, but I would just say in general, get in the habit of having a professional email where you have all your college stuff coming in, something that has your first name, last name, and a number or something along the lines, right? But try not to use, like our cartoon that you might be into or a show or whatever, video game. Just try to stay away from that as possible. Like I said, first part should be super easy. I don't anticipate y'all getting stuck up on that. The second part, and this is really important, right? So theater affiliation. So the first question that it's going to ask you is, are you an employee of a participating member theater company? Depending on what you answer, so if you put yes, meaning that you personally are working at a theater, it's going to take you down this step, right? And these are all the qualifying theaters for this scholarship. So depending on which one you work at, we're just going to ask you to mark next. Super easy step. So let's just say you work at Cal Grand Theaters. Awesome. All right, cool. So you'll just go ahead and click on that and then mark an X, right? So whatever you work at, Super easy step, should take you like 2 seconds just to find your theater and then enter next on depending on which one you work at. If for whatever reason you felt that we missed a theater, please let us know, but I believe we have them all down. So once again, super easy step. But let's just say that you are not an employee and you say no. And the next question it's going to ask you is, are you a legal dependent of a general manager? In that case, if you are, then it's going to ask you to enter their name, right? The name of your parent, because that's another way of qualifying. So just make sure you have those steps down. And then if the answers to both of these are no, then chances are you may not qualify for this scholarship. So go ahead and reach out to us if you still feel you do qualify, or we'll be happy to kind of go through that process with you just to confirm it. But more than likely, if both of these are no, you may not qualify for this scholarship. So another thing is that we do have to confirm essentially that you're working for these theaters, right? Because if not, then anybody can just go ahead and apply for this. And one of the cool things about this, like I mentioned, it is like an exclusive scholarship, so to speak. So once you do that, you're going to go ahead and select for this step, right? You're going to go select your employee status. But one of the things is that we need to have confirmation that you're working at that theater. So you're going to go, there's 2 different ways that you can do this. You can either A, enter your general manager's email address, and then they're going to get a form that they'll have to complete on your behalf. So they'll say, yes, Gus is working at Chinese theater. He is, eligible for this scholarship. So you'll go ahead and enter their reference email. You can add a personal message, something along the lines of like, please complete the reference form, right? Whatever you want to add, it's really up to you, depending on the relationship you have with this person. And then you'll go ahead and send the request to them once you enter the email. The cool thing about this is that, I guess I would say take this with a grain of salt. So let's just say I want to enter this person's email. So I don't have to complete this application before I send this email to this individual to go ahead and complete my employment verification. So right off the bat right now, right, g@gmail.com, I can go ahead and send this hypothetical person an email. However, the only reason why I say is take it with a grain of salt is just make sure that you're 100% going to complete this application. The last thing you want to do is give someone additional work if you're not going to end up doing the application, right? That's kind of a bummer. So if you're like 1,000% sure you're going to complete it, then yeah, go ahead and give them some wiggle room to complete this application for you, or to complete this verification form for you. But if you're like 50-50, like, what, I'm not sure if I want to end up enrolling in class, or like, I don't even know if I'm going to end up doing the scholarship. Like, I'm still trying to confirm if I'm even eligible, all that, then I would say hold off on this, right? Just like I said, the last thing we want to do is give people additional work of whatever they already have. Like I said, you can go ahead and send it at any time. Another way to do employee verification is NATO does have a form, like a paper form, so to speak, that you can go ahead and print out, complete, and then upload. Some of you may already have that. I know that's the format they used in the past. So if you're like, well, I already completed this form, like I don't want to have to bug my manager again to complete it, that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and complete it, either scan it or whatever, however you completed it, and then you can go ahead and upload that form. So one or the other. Whatever's easier for you, we're cool with it. We just have to make sure that it's verified. Awesome. All right, I think we're good. All right, cool. So this is continued demographic information. It's just more so we can have some details on you, your gender, your ethnicity, your race. So just go ahead and answer those questions. We're going to skip over that. Education history and college enrollment. All right, so this is another step. Did either of your parents graduate from a 4-year college or university? We just want to know if you're a first-gen student or not. So whatever the case is, please let us know. And more than likely, because I know sometimes students get confused on this particular question, it's if they graduated in a 4-year university here in this country. Community college, usually we don't count it. But if you're kind of stuck up, if you're like, well, my mom went to community college and she was about to graduate, she didn't, and whatever, right? Because I know there's sometimes crazy scenarios. Just reach out and I'd be happy to kind of, guide you, or, based on what you've told me, I can say, what, go ahead and put yes, or no, I think it's you're technically still qualified as a first gen. Are you currently a high school senior? Once again, this is where smart logic kicks in. So for those of you that are high school seniors, you'll go ahead and click yes, and then you enter your high school name, anticipated high school graduation year, which should be 2023. If you're any younger than that, then maybe just wait a year before you apply for this scholarship. And then of course your GPA. And then you upload your transcript. We just want to have transcript that you have up to this point. So essentially it should have all your GPA up to your first semester of your senior year. right? So I know right now, if you're a high school senior, you're still in the middle of, or you're just starting your spring term, that's okay. We just need to know your GPA up to this point, right? Your cumulative up to this point. So please go ahead and upload that. And I know, depending on where you are, your transcripts may look super different, especially since for this particular scholarship, it's like California and Nevada. The high school transcript that you have, unofficial too, like don't go requesting, don't go paying for scholarships, excuse me, for transcripts. We don't need you to pay for that. Just talk to your counselor, and I'm sure you can just simply, or they can send it to you, just a PDF version that you can just go ahead and upload. All right, so that's if you're a high school senior, but if you're not, right, some of you might be past high school, and that's perfectly okay. Okay, so we still want to know your high school name, even if you're not a high school senior, whatever high school you graduated from. But then it's going to tell you over here, are you currently enrolled in college? So you're going to say either, no, I plan to enroll in the fall of 23, like, maybe I took a year off, whatever. Or you're like, yeah, I'm actually enrolled in school right now, right? So same concept. And you're going to go ahead and write your name of whatever college you're currently attending. When you started attending that college, I started fall 23, I started fall 21, whatever term that is. And then please upload your most current unofficial college transcripts. Once again, even if you are a college student, we still want to verify your GPA and how it is that you're tracking. So please go ahead and do that. Some of you, and I'm just going to do this really quick, are neither, right? So you're not currently enrolled. You're not currently enrolled in college and you're graduated high school. In this case, we're going to base it off your high school GPA, right? So this might be a tougher step for some of you, but we need transcripts one way or another, right? Because your GPA is part of their criteria, right? You have to have at least 2.0 GPA based on that. So if you're just like, I did take a year off and I'm not currently in college, I took 2 years off, whatever the case might be, this, like I said, is an additional step. You're probably going to have to either call your high school or go there in person and request that transcript. So it is an additional hurdle that you might have to jump over, but we do need that information. And once again, you go ahead and upload your high school transcripts. And then college enrollment plans, same thing. If you already have your college, you don't have to worry about this. But if you're like either in high school or you're not enrolled, just tell us your enrollment plans, right? When do you plan on enrolling? And then this first, second, and third choice, just to give us an idea of what our cohort's going to look like. I get that a lot of you, if you applied, for example, to start in school in the fall, you still are waiting for some acceptance letters. That's perfectly okay. All we're saying is, if it was up to you, if everything, all the stars aligned, what would be your top 3 choices, right? So my first top 3 choices would be UNLV, for those of you who are in Nevada, UC Santa Barbara, and Cal State Fullerton, whatever, right? Like, so even, and then at the end of the day, we're not holding you to this. So even if you said, yeah, my first choice was UNLV, and then later on you decide to go to Cal State Northridge, that's perfectly fine, right? Ultimately, we'll ask for confirmation once that May 1st SIR deadline comes around. We just want to know right now, as of now, what are your top 3 schools? So don't get too hung up on this. You're not, like I said, you're not committing to anything. We just want to have an idea of what those schools look like, right? And then, yeah, same thing. Have you received any acceptances? Yes or no? And then is your school a semester school or is it a quarter school? So most schools, I would say like 90% of the schools are probably going to be semester based. The schools that are quarter based are rare. I would say more UCs like in California. I believe Stanford's quarter based, and there's a couple of other schools that might be within that. But simple Google search would tell you that information. Like is blank school, quarter, or semester, and then you can go ahead and enter that information. Well, once again, don't worry about that too much. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. So now this is just kind of more like general information about yourself. So this next part is where you're actually going to share more in-depth information. And this, just FYI, is the part that we're going to be reviewing in a little bit more detail. So you have to enter 2 activities that you've done. Either once again, if you are a current high school senior, or if you haven't enrolled in college or you weren't enrolled in college, then these activities pertain to your high school. If you're currently enrolled in college, then we want to know about your college activities. Go ahead and first enter the name of your activity, whatever that may be, right? So there's different clubs on campus. Once again, this goes in whether you're in high school or college, or it doesn't even have to be school related, and that's the cool thing, right? What have you done? Is it a church activity, community service, family obligations, hobby, school club, sports, student government, volunteering, work, other? What 2 activities have you done? Now, students always kind of get hung up on this part. But I would say when students ask me like, well, I'm part of these 4 activities, and I'm not really sure what I should put down. I would say whatever activity you've been more devoted to, whatever you've been more committed to, right? So for example, let's just say I've been going part of a church activity, right? And I've been doing that since I was like in middle school. And every year I volunteer, we do different projects, we, feed the homeless, all these different things. And then I just joined a club in college, which it's a great club, right? The Glee Club or whatever, right? And it's great. And but I literally just joined. I attended my first meeting last week. I don't know too much about it. I definitely would say to go for the church one, right? Because you've been in it for like 5, 6, 7 years or whatever. You volunteered. It shows commitment. Then maybe you even have like some type of lead volunteer or communications coordinator. I don't know, right? Some type of title to it. So, and I do have a question on the chat: is can I put my high school activities even though I'm in college now? I would say depending on your age or depending on how deep you are in college right now. So if it's like your first year in college, right? It's just like you're just started like school, like your first semester, then sure, I think that's viable. Like maybe you can go and add high school activities, or you're still getting acclimated to your campus. If you're like on your second year, I would say that's kind of when it starts getting a little iffy, right? Because we all we want to see that you've done some college participation, right? When it's getting reviewed, it's going to look like there's going to be a huge gap, right? So it's like, okay, you're talking about an activity that you did when you were in 10th grade, but now you're in your second year of college. So it just kind of depends. It's really hard just to straight up answer that question because I just don't know what activity, what club you're talking about. So I would just kind of say, and sounds like you might be in your either first or second year. When you're 19, I'm not really I guess depending on right when you were born, that can kind of just be on a different status. So it just really depends on that. So for the person asking on the chat, if you really want to know like specifics, feel free to shoot me an email. And then maybe I can, I'll go ahead and write my. I'll go ahead and write my email on there. So it sounds like you kind of got the gist of what I was trying to say, but if you're just like, I'm really not sure, shoot me an email, and I'm more than happy to kind of just provide a little bit more clarity. So, okay, anywho, so name of the activity, what category would you fall in under? General description of the activity. Just because, you might be 100% aware of what that activity is, but think about this. There is the person or the volunteers reviewing this may have never heard of that activity in their entire life. So describe this to somebody that has never heard your club, as just assume that they have zero knowledge on it, right? So just go ahead. What is this activity? If it's sports-based, is community service, if it's volunteering, what do you do? What is the general activity of the club and your responsibilities? And then what years were you involved in your activity, right? 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, or after high school? How many weeks per year did you devote to this activity? Was it a year-round thing? Was it just like a summer activity? You did it every summer, right? So 12 weeks and hours per week. And I know this sounds confusing, but this is just kind of general jargon, if you will, when it comes to trying to describe activities. But once again, if you get hung up on this, just let me know. But just try to, be as accurate as possible, I guess I would say. Like, we're not going to grill you or ask you for receipts. We're going to say like, really, like you were doing that long. But obviously, if you put like, I did it 52 weeks per year, 24 hours a week, like, or like something crazy amount that we're going to be like, all right, we're going to kind of raise an eyebrow, right? So be realistic, be honest, right? Try to be as honest as possible. Don't milk it because right, sometimes we'll be able to tell if you're kind of exaggerating a little too much. And then, so this is a general description of the activity, right? Like what you did, what your responsibilities were you president, vice president, director, whatever. And then here is, what did you learn from that activity? What did you take from it? How did you grow from it? So just tell us a little bit more how you felt that you grew as an individual, as a student, as a volunteer, as a professional. What did you learn? How did you grow? And then you're going to do it twice, right? So you're going to do one for activity 1 and then one for activity 2. So I'm not going to go over activity 2 because it's the exact same thing, just another one. And then also just another piece of advice is try to diversify it. And what I mean by that is like, if your first activity is a church one, don't make your second one a church one. You know, make it a community service one, right? Like switch it up. Like don't, or like, let's just say, I mean, like, I'll speak for like when I was in high school, like I was big on sports. So I remember this was difficult for me because I just like all my activities were sports based. I was like, oh my God, like what do you know, how do I vary it? So I had to like try to find a different club that wasn't just, I wanted to show that I was like a diverse candidate essentially, right? So if one of your activities is sports, that's awesome, right? Pick the one that maybe you're most devoted to. Maybe you were captain of that team or whatever. And then your second activity, maybe community service, right? Or things like that. I also want to point out that family obligations can be considered an activity. And what I mean by this is every time I, you know, have students saying like, you know what, like my schedule is just jam packed, you know, like I go to school, I'm a full-time student. And then, you know, after that, I wanted to work or I wanted to be part of an after school club, but I couldn't because, you know, my mom works like graveyard or whatever and had to babysit my youngest siblings. So like, you know, that's fine, right? Like that shows commitment, that shows, you know, that you're a team player. So you can go ahead and put family and then talk about how, you know, you were a babysitter, but sell it in a way that shows that you like what you were doing, right? So maybe you weren't just a babysitter, but you were providing homework assistance. You were tutoring, you were, you know, doing all these different things within that, right? So it's really not exactly the activity, it's what you learned from it, what you did from it, it's how you sell it. So I think just like I said, if you do that, like don't hesitate, don't be like, well, I wish I was doing other activities. So that's perfectly acceptable. And that's just one example of a family obligation. You can have other ones as well. So we do, I feel like this is pretty, there's a lot of options. And then if you feel that one of your activities doesn't fall under any of these, you know, you can go ahead and click other, and then you can go ahead and just kind of describe what that activity is if it's not under this. All right, so activities. All right, we're still good on time. Any questions on activities? No, everybody good?
Okay, I do. So, hi, I'm Nikki. I'm from the Regal Mira Mesa Theater. I have 2 employees on this call, so I'm really happy to see them on here. I'm on it for them. Also, my daughter is a senior in high school, so she's going to be going under me as an independent or dependent. So she's very involved in school. She is involved in dance, cheer. She works part-time, and then also she helps with her little sisters with homework and stuff too. So do you feel, I mean, is there going to be another area for her to explain? Because she's got like 4, and I know you said, like, I guess dance and cheer would kind of maybe go under one, work would go on the other one.
I guess you're trying to say like how else can she talk about her involvement in these other?
Yeah,
I would say
yeah,
it's going to be section. So we're actually on getting to the prompts. So I would say for these 2, for the activities, maybe try to find the one that she's more, like I said, committed to, or maybe has like maybe some type of leadership role or something like that. And then within the prompts, she may be able to kind of throw in a little bit in there, like, you know, like for example, describe how your leadership experience has either positively influenced others, helped resolve issues, or contributed to group efforts over time. Maybe that's where she talks about one of her other clubs that she's done that. So, or what is your greatest talent or skill? So for example, let's just say, you mentioned that she's in sports, but maybe her greatest talent or skill that she's an amazing dancer. And that's how she talks about that, right? Like just how she just, you know, was super committed, you know, that maybe, I mean, I'm just making this up, right? Maybe at first she didn't make the dance team because, you know, it wasn't her thing, but she like, you know, grinded and worked her behind off. And then, you know, she ultimately was able to make whatever her story is, right? So she'll be able to maybe talk a little bit more when it comes to some of these personal prompts or personal insight questions, like we like to call them. So there's other things that she might be able to, or other ways within these prompts that she might be able to highlight some of those great accomplishments that she's done. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. And thanks for the question. Any other questions?
Hi, sorry, I'm not camera ready, but will we get this application right after this meeting to fill out?
Yeah, so it's already available. So you should have received it, but if you haven't, yeah, we can definitely send it to you so you can go ahead and complete it. But you should have, like, it's been open for like, I'm not sure, maybe 3 weeks now.
Jake, I can resend it to you as well. He's one of my employees.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I sent them all a reminder about today's webinar too. So.
All right, that's perfect. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Jake. And thanks, Nicole. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the insight questions. Now, as far as the insight questions or personal statement questions, you have the option of 5 and you only have to answer 3. So I'm going to say that again. You have the option of 5 and you only have to answer 3. Only 3 responses will be reviewed. So I know I'm sure some of you out there are little overachievers and you're like, well, I'm going to just answer all 5 of them because that's just me. Like, okay, well, that's great. But you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot on that one. And let me explain why. So and we've had these again where once again, we have our little overachievers and they want to answer all 5 of them. The instructions that we provide to the people that ultimately review the scholarship is if there are 5, just go ahead and read the first 3. And you're only going to review the first 3. So let's just say you do all 5, right? They're only going to review prompt 1, prompt 2, prompt 3. And then maybe number 4, number 5 were your strongest or your strongest responses. We're not even going to review them, right? So like, that's what I meant by you're shooting yourself in the foot. So just find your top 3. And the ones that you decide not to do, then you'll go ahead and just simply click or write NA, right? Not applicable. And it says it here in the instruction. Please enter NA for the 2 prompts that you do not answer. So quickly, I'm just going to go over, and then let me see. Awesome, thanks, Mona, for this is on the chat. Okay, so these prompts, we essentially try to align them with the 2 main public California systems or public college California systems that we have here, which is our UCs and our Cal States. So if you applied to the Cal States and the UCs, you might have already answered some of these questions. So this is just like an insider tip, if you will. Or if you apply to the CSUs, they're related to some of the EOP questions that you might have answered. So once again, if you apply to the UCs or the CSU EOP program, you may have already answered these questions. So you can definitely use those prompts and then just adjust them to make sure that this particular answer or the particular answer fits the question. So just kind of wanted to give you a heads up on that. The first one is describe an example of how your leadership experience has either positively influenced others, helped resolve issues, or contributed to group efforts over time. Second prompt, in your opinion, what is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? Prompt 3, please discuss your academic background and if you utilized any additional support at your high school or college, example, tutoring, that could be office hours, whatever. Do your grades reflect your academic ability or potential? Prompt 4, tell us about the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? And last but not least, why would you like to earn a college degree or certificate? Please address any circumstances, experiences, or persons that influenced your preparation or motivation to attend and complete college, right? So you can talk about your cultural, financial background, family, teachers, etc. 350 words or less for each prompt. So we're not expecting super long essays. I know it's 3 prompts, right? So 350 words or less, which probably totals about maybe 2 paragraphs, if that. So make sure that you discuss these. And there really is no, in case you all are wondering, like, oh, which one will be the best? It's really up to the individual, right? I can't really answer that without knowing you. So just look for the ones that you feel are really going to give us some insight on you. So remember, this person has no idea who you are. You want to let them know exactly who you are as a person, how you've grown, and things like that. So just have that in mind, right? Like how can you talk about yourself, how can you describe yourself? And then once again, the ones that you don't answer, you go ahead and just enter NA, right? So let's just say I don't want to answer prompt 1, but I want to answer prompt 2. So I go ahead and answer that, right? 350 words less. Prompt 3, I also want to answer it. So I go ahead and blah, 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 type. And then prompt 4, I'm like, no, I don't really want to talk about a challenge. So, but I definitely want to answer prompt 5, right? So essentially what it should look like. So NA, answered, NA, answered. So 2 should have NA somewhere, right? That's just so we know we're not even going to look at that. You didn't answer those questions. So once again, only answer 3. If you answer 5, we're going to just look at the first 3. We're not even going to look at 4 and 5, right? So just make sure that you do that. Like I said, the last thing I would want is for you to kind of just hinder your opportunity for a scholarship because, you were essentially trying to do too much, right? So it just makes it easier for that. And that's just how we level the playing field. Any questions on the prompts? And then, I think Nicole brought up a great point earlier, right? So try your best to just kind of show that you're a well-rounded student, individual, professional, right? So if in your activities, you're already highlighted like 2 big clubs, whatever that you're into, then maybe you highlight different things here on the prompt 1, prompt 2, prompt 3, prompt 4, prompt 5. Not saying that you can't like expand on it. That's also acceptable. I've seen that too, where someone talks about their activities, and you know, it's a good activity. And then in the prompt 1, they also kind of talk about it as well. And I mean, it's like more detail, I guess. So that's okay. It just really depends on you as a person, as an individual, how much you want to showcase and what activities, what prompts, whatever, what you want to talk about. All right, so no questions on number 6. So we're going to continue, and then I'll have some time at the end. Looks like we're tracking pretty well as far as time for some questions if there are any. All right, number 7, future workforce of the entertainment industry. So as you know, right, this, you know, everybody on this call should have some type of connection to the theater industry or the entertainment industry. So this section essentially focuses on that particular component, right? So this is just kind of more just getting you to know like your academic background and challenges and stuff like that. This is just a little bit more focused on the entertainment industry, right? So we just want to know, is your goal, do you have a goal to pursue a career in the entertainment industry? Remember, like, yes, you know, I've always wanted to be a producer. I've always wanted to be a director. I've always wanted to be a screenwriter, whatever, right? If that's the case, then yes, just let us know. Yes, it is. Or no, you mean I like my job now, but you know, ultimately I want to get into education or psychology, or I want to be an engineer, whatever. That's perfectly fine. Just let us know. And then if you have any particular career interest, like I already mentioned, like, you know, you want to be a producer, you want to be a director, or screenwriter, or whatever, right? So you go ahead and just, are there any career interests that you have? And once again, this is just for us to know what our cohort looks like. You know, maybe we have certain partnerships or something where maybe we might be able to connect you with a future internship or something along those lines. So this is just to know a little bit more details on what your ultimate career interests or goals will be. And then you'll have to answer one more prompt, once again, a little bit more specific to the entertainment industry. You only have to answer 1 out of the 2. So similar concept as we talked about over here, right? The first 3 prompts, or the first 5 prompts, you only have to answer 3 out of 5. For this one, you only have to answer 1 out of the 2. So we have prompt A and prompt B. Once again, answer the one that you feel is going to showcase you more, and you'll be able to have a better response to it. So, and the one that you don't answer, you go ahead and enter NA. So prompt A, if you could pick a dream job in the entertainment industry, what would it be and why? How do you feel this job would best suit your interests, skills, and values? Prompt B, the entertainment industry is often associated with creativity and expression, focused on storytelling as a powerful tool to give us an opportunity to learn another person's experience. It can shape, strengthen, or challenge our opinions and values. What is the story you might tell about your goals and dreams? How might your story challenge existing ideas and concepts? So once again, both had enough content for you to be able to really tell or talk a little bit about yourself, your interests, your skills, your values, and your challenges, right? So 1 out of the 2, you have to go ahead and answer 350 words or less, right? So same concept. I'm like, oh, you know what? Prompt A, not really for me. But prompt B, right? It's a little bit more robust, a little bit more general, so to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that one, right? So I answer prompt B. Okay, once again, 1 out of the 2, you do not have to answer both. Any questions on our industry or entertainment industry responses? Yeah. Okay, number 8. Now this is 100% optional. Like, so don't feel at all that you have to answer this. And it's just really, once again, for us to just have a better understanding of you as a person, as an individual, any challenges that you face. This one's particularly to COVID. Just, you know, the past 3 years, right? It's just been, you know, everybody's world turned upside down, and some people got more impacted over COVID than others. This particular section is not going to be scored, but if you feel that there is something about COVID that just particularly impacted you, then please let us know in this section, right? Did you maybe really get sick and it just kind of hindered your educational opportunities? did, I mean, and hopefully not, hopefully that's not the case, but maybe, you know, someone in your family got very ill, maybe even a death in the family because of COVID, and you haven't really had an opportunity to talk about that anywhere else in the section, this is where you can share that if you would like to share it. If you don't want to, if you're like, no, honestly, I just, sensitive topic for me, I don't want to share that, that's 100% fine. This section is not going to be scored, but just knowing you a little bit more might kind of make it easier to make some connections, right? Like if we kind of look at your transcripts and we see, you know what, like this person, for whatever reason, their senior year in high school just didn't seem to do really well. Like what happened, right? And then you kind of talk about here, like your senior year in high school was when this terrible tragedy happened. And because of that, you had to miss a lot of days in school, whatever, then that kind of helps us make that connection of like, well, I mean, it makes sense, right? Any person would have probably, it would have affected any person's grades, right? So then we kind of start making those connections. Yes, a lot of, you know, there's some stories that a transcript can't tell, right? So yes, maybe GPA isn't that great, but it's for a good reason, right? There's still that human element to it. And this kind of just helps us do that and answer that a little bit more. Once again, optional, not scored. So if you don't want to answer this, you will not be penalized. If you're just like, honestly, yes, COVID was tough. It was tough for everybody, but is there anything that particularly impacted me? No, I would say no. So cool. I'm gonna just go ahead and put NA. I'm not gonna answer it. I promise you, your score will not be affected in any way. Okay. So don't worry, you don't have to answer it if like I said, you don't want to, or if you just feel that it doesn't apply to you. All right, we are almost done. Step 9, letter of recommendation. So we want to know what a recommender would say about you, right? So this is where you would enter this particular information. So the letter of rec is due February 17, 2023. I know it's only a couple of days after the actual application is due, but if you all remember that first, I think it was like the second step or something, where you can go ahead and enter that recommender information even beforehand. Well, this is where you might want to give your recommender a heads up and assist, if you will, right? So let's just say I know for a fact I'm applying to the scholarship. I'm just going to start today, which is okay. Like I said, you still have 2 weeks, but I don't want to wait until I submit my entire application on the 15th. Let's just say I'm like, you know, I ended up submitting it till the 15th, and now my recommender only has 2 days to write their letter of rec. Well, you know what? I'm going to just go ahead and enter their information. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and enter their information right now, right? So it's something that you can go ahead and do. Sorry, accidentally clicked out of this. Right here. Let me share my screen. Yeah, I'll just try. So that's what you'll go ahead and enter. Let's see, I have someone in the chat as it does not. So Emma in the chat, does it have to be the same person I put down for my employee verification? It does not. So we see right here, right? Your letter of recommendation may come from your theater general manager, but it does not have to be. So other people that can do it for you can be a teacher, a counselor, a group leader, anybody, as long as it's not a family member, right? Like, don't put your mom, because your mom's gonna say you're amazing, and you're right. Who's gonna? Of course, you're the most amazing person ever if you put your mom or your dad, right? But just make sure it's a professional recommendation, if you will, right? So either your general manager, a teacher, a counselor, a principal, anybody that you thought you've had a good relationship with. One of the things that I would say about this as well is similar concept as when I mentioned about the activities, right? The more committed that you've had, or the more commitment that you've had into an activity, that's probably the one that I would personally probably recommend to put. Same concept with the recommender. How long have you known the recommender? Honestly, does go a long way, because it shows growth. It shows how much you've evolved, right? So what I mean by that is, let's just say I just started a job. Even as great as my boss is, they don't really know me that well. I've only been working there for a month, right? So like, yes, of course, like my boss is awesome, and I'm sure they can say some great things, but how much can you say about someone that you've only known for a month, right? They don't know if I've grown. They don't know too much about me. But let's just say my counselor, maybe they've known me since I was a freshman in high school, or my academic advisor maybe knew me since I was a freshman in college, and now I'm a third, fourth year, right? So they've seen how much I've evolved as a person. They can talk about, like, I remember when, you know, Gus first entered my office, they were this scared, freshmen, and they were really didn't ask questions. They were really trying to figure themselves. They were nervous. They didn't even know if college was for them. And now, he's rocking it. He applied for an internship. He's looking for career opportunities. So you can see that growth, that evolvement, and that's really what we want to see. Someone that kind of shows us some insight. What I've noticed is sometimes it's really hard to talk about yourself, right? It's like when you want to kind of quote unquote brag about yourself, sometimes it's a little bit difficult. But it's really nice to see how someone sees you in their eyes, right? Someone that maybe was a mentor to you, or someone that's just kind of seen like that third party perspective. And that's why I love reading these letters of recommendation, because I'm like, oh my God, like Nicole never shared that about herself. I didn't know that she did this, or that she went through this crazy struggle, and like, oh my God, like that's so amazing that she persevered after blah, 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 right? So it's a really cool insight. Someone asked, yeah, so Maura mentioned the employee verification should be from your company's human resource department or payroll specialist. Yeah, so they don't necessarily coincide. So anyways, you go ahead and put the name of your recommender, recommender's title, recommender organization, relationship with your recommender, are they your teacher, your counselor, your advisor, whatever, and then you'll go ahead and enter their email. Once again, if you want to give them a little bit of time to go ahead and get this recommendation, you can just go ahead and send it to them. And then you can click this button that says send request now. They'll go ahead and receive that. It's honestly, so once they get this, or once you click send request now, they're going to get an email from Submittable. It's like an automated email, and it's going to just give them like some simple steps of some of the things that they should talk about in your recommendation, but it's nothing crazy. So in some cases, someone may already have a recommendation from you. They can still use that and maybe just cater it a little bit more to be more specific. But it's a general letter of recommendation. So, Gus and I recommend Jake with highest regards for the NATO scholarship. They have been amazing, blah, blah, right? And then that's when I can start talking about it, whatever. So it's just, it's nothing that they have to particularly fill out as far as clicking buttons. It's really just, they're going to have to complete like a sheet, or they're going to have to type out essentially a letter of recommendation. So super straightforward. So like I said, some of you may already have someone that's in a letter of recommendation for you in the past. So if you want to use that same person, you're more than welcome to. But of course, I would just recommend for it to be catered. That's another thing that I've seen in the past. Like a recommender maybe recycled a letter of rec, which like I said, is perfectly fine. But then when I read it, it says, I recommend Gus for, and it's like this other complete scholarship. And I'm just kind of like, all right, you could have took the extra 2 seconds to literally change like those 2-3 words so it looks like it's customized, right? So just like I said, if you're going to use a recyclable one, that's okay. Just make sure that your recommender, tailors it to this particular scholarship, because it just shows that nice personal touch. Okay, any other questions on recommender or letters of rec? And this is our last section, and then we'll be done. All right, so the last step is an upload. Now, this should be fairly easy. However, I understand that sometimes it does take a little bit of time, or sometimes it's difficult for students to identify where to find this particular file. So we want all of you to complete your financial aid applications. Once you complete your financial aid application, most of you are going to be doing it using your FAFSA. You are going to get something called a student aid report, or you're going to have access to your student aid report. Your student aid report is essentially a summary of everything that you entered on your FAFSA. So once you do that, you're going to go ahead and click on or go log into your financial aid application, and you're going to download your student aid report. We want it in a PDF version. So you download the student aid report, and then you go ahead and upload it on here. The reason why we want to know, first, we want to make sure that you complete your financial aid application, because we want to make sure that you're taking advantages of all the other financial aid resources out there, right? In addition to the scholarship, which is going to be great because it will provide you financial support, you might be eligible for the Pell Grant or the Cal Grant or a university grant, or all these other different types of grants that are out there and that are available for you. So we want you to maximize the amount of financial aid that you are receiving. So that's why it's a first step. You must complete your FAFSA. So if you're like, well, I wasn't going to complete it because I know that we don't qualify, all this, like, you never know, right? Just shoot your shot, see if you qualify. And if you don't, you're in the exact same step that you were, 30 minutes before you completed it. So just go ahead. You must complete it if you want to apply for that. After you complete it, within honestly, sometimes it's like 2-3 days, you can go ahead and download your student aid report and then you upload it. But it is pretty straightforward on how to do it. But I understand if you have any questions on it, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you with that particular part. You'll just go ahead and choose file, and then from here, it'll ask you to upload your student aid report. But once again, you must complete your FAFSA before you can get your student aid report. So if you haven't done your FAFSA, if you're just starting this application and you just haven't done your FAFSA, I would say do your FAFSA now. That way, you have the next few days to be able to download that report and upload it onto here. Any questions on the student aid report?
I don't have a question on that, but I have a question on something else. Can I go back to that?
Yeah, I think so, because the last thing I'm going to say about the student aid report, just make sure that it's a 23-24, 2023 to 2024 student aid report. Just other than that, and then we have some links here that you can refer to if you're like, well, I don't even know what a student aid report looks like. That's perfectly fine. Go ahead and click on this sample, and it'll take you to hey, this is what a student aid report should look like. But yeah, go ahead, Nicole.
So my daughter's major is zoology, and it doesn't have to do with the entertainment industry. Is that going to hinder her at all from getting anything?
I wouldn't say it's going to hinder her. I think she just may have some difficulty answering prompt A or prompt B. So I would say to just what transferable skills is what I would focus on. So for example, prompt B is entertainment industry is often associated with creativity and expression, focus on storytelling. So just kind of making sure that she can answer these prompts without glossing over some of the things that they're looking for within these responses, I think would just be maybe just a little bit more difficult for her, I would say. But she's definitely still eligible, even if she's not in the entertainment industry. So I would just say try to identify which one might be better suited for her.
Okay, and then if anyone gets these scholarships, I'm not sure if anyone else is questioning about this too. How does it work? Do you basically, okay, because so I don't know if you know Lolly over at Palm Springs, but her daughter has gotten a scholarship, I want to say the last 2 or 3 years from Palm Springs. We're usually dealing with Charlene, so this is all new to us. I think what she had to do is send in receipts and then you get the money back in return. How does a scholarship actually work if you get it, if you qualify?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to answer too much as far as the previous processes and how that's going to change as much, because that's really more of an internal question for maybe, I know Maura is on the call and she might be able to maybe kind of talk about the shift and what they did before and what they're going to do now. As far as our process, and more than likely it's going to be something very similar to this. And we still have to kind of iron out some of the details, but essentially what, I guess, let me take a step back first and let me stop sharing so maybe we can just kind of see each other a little bit more. So one of the cool things is that in addition to receiving financial support, these students are going to be part of Fulfillment Fund. And what that means is that they're going to have a personal advisor that reaches out to them when they're in college and checking in with them, making sure that, their grades are up to par, that they're taking the right classes, that they're completing their financial aid application, and are kind of just trying to keep them on track, right? Are you applying to internships? Hey, you're a third year, this is probably the timeline where you should be applying to internships. Or hey, you know what, we have this internship opportunity that I think you might be great for, go ahead and check this out. Or we have all these webinars, and there's just so many things that I think I just want to highlight that part first too, that there's a bunch of resources and support that we're going to have for the students in addition to the financial support. As far as the financial support, as far as how they're going to receive those funds, is every term what we do is we're going to verify certain things about the student, and assuming that they complete all those requirements, then we'll be able to award them. So just some of the base requirements are, is your GPA above a 2.0 when you're in college, right? Are you taking full-time courses while you're in college? Are you completing your financial aid applications similar to your student aid report, your financial aid award letters? Are you attending certain webinars that we require? And then I'm sure, in addition, those are just some basic steps, right? And in addition to that, we're going to work with NATO, and we're going to ask, I'm sure they're going to have more specific requirements of maybe you have to complete this particular step in order to get awarded. And once we verify that, what we'll do, the cool thing that we do is we'll, once again, like I said, I have to iron out these, and Mauro, I know you're on the call, maybe you can talk a little bit more, but it just kind of depends on the preference of the organization. So sometimes they'll pay us and then we'll be able to distribute those funds. And usually that's kind of how we manage it. But like I said, I don't know if we particularly ironed out those details yet, Maura.
Hi, Nicole. I'm Mara. So I'm the Operations and Communications Manager for NATO. So I'm the new Charlene. So the process of the receipt reimbursement was the old way of the scholarship program. So like currently with the 2022 scholars, that's how we're managing it. But starting with the 2023 scholars, with our partnership with Fulfillment Fund, they won't be submitting receipts for reimbursement. So as long as they continue to meet Fulfillment Fund's eligibility requirements, they will receive their scholarship award yearly without having to submit receipts.
Thanks.
Do you have any additional questions about it? So it'd be a simplified way of doing things, basically.
Great, thanks, Maura. Any other questions, either of the application itself, the post process? Happy to answer that. We have about 6 minutes left. One once, and twice. All right, so it looks like we have no more questions. So once again, any person that gets this scholarship will continue to receive Fulfillment Fund support. So like I said, you will have certain requirements throughout college. You'll have to check in with an advisor. You do have certain amounts of webinars, professional development opportunities that you're going to have to participate in. But I promise you, we don't do it just for the sake of doing it. We really feel, all these additional support are going to help you while you are in college. So I strongly encourage you to just keep that in mind and then just make sure to take advantage of all those resources that we are going to be providing for you. But anywho, we're really excited about this. Scholarship is due. The deadline is February 15th. Letter of rec is due February 17th. So you have about 2 weeks to start this application if you haven't. So that should be more than enough time. But of course, don't procrastinate. I know a lot of us love to do that. But other than that, if you do have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to provide some guidance. I know there are a lot of specific scenarios that you might come across. So I'm going to go ahead and write my email one more time. My name's Gus Nakata. I'm the director of the College Success Program. So my team and I work with students while they're in college. Like I mentioned, providing all those reports, but of course, also responsible for the distribution of the scholarships that we have. But if there are no more questions, we are done for the webinar. So on our side, we're going to go ahead and edit this webinar, and then hopefully within the next week or so, we'll have it available so we can have a link to it so you can review it if you're just, anything that I mentioned that kind of just you forgot or you want to refer back to. But other than that, thank you all so much for spending your Wednesday afternoon with me. Have a great rest of your day and good luck. Super excited to have some of you as our scholarship recipients. Take care, y'all.